Mark's blog, which you see in the movie, and which is pretty much verbatim. I made it a little bit shorter, but you know, that it was clear that he'd just gotten his heart broken by a girl, and that this was going to be a night of drinking and blogging and this revenge stunt face match. I knew that I wanted to start with, I wanted to see him get his heart broken by a girl, that I wanted to see that scene. But you know, since you brought up that it was 9 pages, that it's 2 people sitting in a bar, again, I just, a lot of directors would have come along and said, and particularly, you know, listen, David, what he's most known for is being peerless as a visual director. So intuitively, this is an unusual marriage of director and material, because I write people talking in rooms. And you would think that the director would come along and say, listen, I actually don't know what I'm going to point the camera at. I can't forget a movie like this with a 9-page scene of 2 people talking at a table. And I'm just going to throw it back to David.
It's a good scene. So there's no problem in sublimating, you know, your desire to show off if what you're presenting is something that you think is what it's going to take to kind of steep the audience. I love that. I mean, originally the script began, it was in black, and you hear the voices over the black, and I kind of wondered, well, why don't we just see the Columbia logo and start hearing them then, and hear the jukebox and hear all the people talking, and let people know, pin your ears back, man. You've got to pay attention, because we're starting over the. If we could start over the tease, you know, over the trailers with other movies. That's what I actually, at one point we talked about the notion of putting the credits over that opening scene. So it was just like jukebox, cacophony, people dropping burger plates, and 2 people talking right over the top of each other, and unit production manager. You know, just like information overload. But we did. I just felt the scene teed up exactly who this guy was, exactly what the stakes were, exactly what the world was, and it taught you how to watch the movie. So, and also when Aaron read it, it was 4.5 minutes. It was 9 pages and 4.5 minutes. So the whole thing was, let's get everybody used to the idea of 9 pages and 4.5 minutes.
I'd like to ask Jesse, Andrew, and Justin if your research or just your approach to the role involved much actual research into the people you were playing, or whether you took more of your inspiration just from what was in the script.
Well, I did a lot of research during the rehearsal process, but if I didn't and only had Aaron's script, that would have been perfectly sufficient. I auditioned for the movie prior to looking up Mark Zuckerberg online. I didn't know what he looked like. I had never heard him speak. And all I had was Aaron's incredible characterization, and felt that was more than sufficient to make the audition tape. Then, you know, we had about a month and a half of rehearsal, and you know, in order to feel more prepared and to understand who this guy was, I found every interview and, you know, watched every video that was online and got every picture that I could find of him. But really, you know, as Aaron said, it was not really a movie about, you know, Facebook as much as it is about these kind of more substantive themes, and in the same way, it was not traditional biography picture where I'm trying to do kind of an imitation of the character of Mark Zuckerberg, and so I was really just focusing on playing Aaron's, you know, characterization of Mark Zuckerberg.
Andrew, Justin?
Yeah, I think Jesse put it very well. I don't know how much I have to add to that outside of my own personal experience, which was that I had a photo to go from, and from that,
2 photos.
Well, yeah, you see
the drunk one.
Yeah.
What more do you need, actually? It says so much about a person.
2 facets.
And the drunk one helped because I've never been drunk before, so it was good to see someone drunk and know what face that looks like. But that was great in its own way, because I could just, you know, invent something from, you know, an inspiration, which and I immediately saw that he had, well, maybe this is my own projection, but he seemed very warm, and but yeah, kind of reserved. Anyway, it was, yeah, I kind of had minimal to go from, which was actually quite liberating. Even though I did, you know, try to find him in a very obtuse and you know, uncommitted way. But it would have been really interesting, because of course when you're playing someone who exists and is living and breathing somewhere, you kind of feel a massive sense of responsibility to not ruin them on screen, you know, because we're all human, and you know, when you have empathy for other humans, then it's, you know, it's difficult to do that. But
I feel like you're looking at me and you want me to add to what they just said as well. I mean, I also have empathy for human beings. Thank you. No, I think there was kind of a collective movement with Jesse and Andrew and myself that, like they said before, we all kind of felt like everything, so much of information, what we needed was there on the paper, and then moving into, you know, the wonderful mind of David to find out exactly where this film was going to go. But I think just for playing my character, I actually stayed as far away from anything on the internet that I could, and I think it just, for myself, it played to, you know, you meet my character, and you meet him when he meets Facebook, pretty much. So I wanted to be excited by that. And but like they said, the themes and the ideas are so much bigger than, you know, what the actual invention of Facebook in the film services.
But it was also, we had conversations about, you know, if it's a biopic, then you have, you know, a biopic is essentially there to tell you why somebody did what they did. And I wasn't interested in that at all. I was interested in what they did, and because we saw it from all these different, because we saw it from the multiple points of view, and all of those points of view, of course, were polarized by intense and litigation. There was, you know, I don't know whether Eduardo was Mark's best friend. I know that Eduardo stated that he was his best friend, and I know that Mark stated the exact opposite. But so we had to find a, you know, kind of a happy medium in there where both of them could walk away from the scenes that we see them in, and one could righteously say, I was your best friend, and the other one could look and be aghast by that. So I wanted to stay away from mimicry. I wanted to stay, I mean, we cast the actors that were cast because of what they brought to it, and we wanted to unleash them with as much kind of freedom to make each of the parts of the movie, the things that they were supporting, the story that they were supporting, be as human as possible, and give them the leeway to be human, and not to trap them in, you know, well, he normally starts with his left foot, you know, so.
We'll open it up in I have one last question before we do. You mentioned a month and a half of rehearsal, which strikes me as extremely unusual for Hollywood film these days, and I'm wondering what did that month and a half consist of, and is that something you've done in your previous films?
Was it a month and a half?
Sorry, yeah, I said a month and a half. I just wanted to clarify. We had about 3 weeks of rehearsal. I had a month and a half before we started shooting. That I was just talking about my own, you know, my personal preparation.
Yeah, we did about 3 weeks, and most of those 3 weeks were not, you know, like, let's tape out on the floor. So there'll be a bed here, and there'll be a pillow over here, and there'll be a lamp. You know, we didn't really do that at all. It was more like,
We never got it off the table.
yeah, it was kind of like, well, what does he mean when he says this, and why is he saying it now, and you know, what exactly, what's your intention, and is that the best way that, you know, is that the best way for this person in this moment to, so it was really about just tearing at the fabric of the text and saying, I understand that this is now, or this chronologically happens here on the page. Is it better being a line earlier or a line later? Just, you know, asking those questions. And you know, Sorkinese, as I like to refer to it, is really not about, it's a different kind of way of communicating, because in a lot of cases these are characters who are thinking aloud, and so you need to know kind of from whence they are, what inspired them to kind of get on this role. You know, I like to describe it as, it's not a character presenting a wall of bricks, it's like a character with a dump truck dumping a ton of bricks in the audience's lap. It's like a lot of this, the notion of, and what made these guys special and what made it obvious that there was no one else to play these roles was you could see that they could talk about 1, 2, 3 things simultaneously and be thinking about a fourth and a fifth, you know, and that's what it required to make it. So the rehearsal time was really mostly about how do we dovetail all these words.